watched it grow, he watched it fail, then he watched it grow again. And I wanted to do that. I wanted that journey. So I wrote to Mike and I said, I'm 14, I live in Kentucky, I bought your CD, I don't want to fry chicken, and I want to start a company. How? A few weeks later, Mike responded, and all his letter said, figure it out. Here's some free CDs, tell your friends. So I did. I spent the next year going to my local library every night. Every day I'd get a different book and teach myself something new. I learned how to press CDs. I learned about how distribution centers work. I learned what P&L was. I learned what C++ meant. I learned how to build my own website for the company. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's by far my favorite saying. Because you'll never have a hit unless you take that shot. Every opportunity is a potential success. I decided very early on that I wanted to take every single shot. Learn from my misses and then perfect my aim. And by every account, my first business was a miss. That's when I learned the second lesson, that you learn far more from your failures than you ever do your successes. I learned far more from that company I started when I was 14 than I ever have working on the biggest entertainment launch of all time. Because the values that it teaches you are a foundation far bigger than the lessons you learn from succeeding. So I learned to embrace my failures, learning from the experiences that they are, because every failure teaches you how to do it right the next time. So I was so focused on doing it right, doing it the way I learned in all those books, to be taken seriously, to be professional, that I lost the personality. I focused so much on doing it that I wasn't feeling it anymore. I took part of Mike's advice of do it, but I lost the subtle one of make it intimate, make it personal. So I adopted Mike's second philosophy of making it intimate, opening a personal dialogue with everyone who took the time to write me, to call me, to order one of our products, to send me an email, and it became more than just a business to me. It's that journey, that momentum, that painfully slow iteration from nothing to something shitty, to something decent, to something amazing, that makes you the creative vision holder. And that journey, that intimate understanding of what it took to get to that point, that makes the creative vision holder, us, the most important influencer on your brand. And that is why every vision holder should maintain that control of their brand and their messaging and their communication. Because no one else is going to be able to inject that understanding and that passion into it like the people who started it, the people who failed a bunch of times, the people who had negative $35 in their bank account and couldn't pay for gas and had to ask their friend to take them everywhere. It's that struggle that becomes increasingly more difficult as the brands grow. In size and scope and popularity, when sales start dictating your design and your marketing, starts representing less of what the game actually is and more of an interpretation of what the game is, then that's when you're doing it wrong. And we're making a business rather than a vision. It's that struggle that's ours to win and ours to control. It's a struggle that I especially face every single day on Call of Duty. Because the larger the brand becomes, the larger the budgets grow, the more people have a vested interest in its success and failures. The harder it's going to be to maintain its soul and its personality, the essence that makes it what it is. And by every account, you can look at Call of Duty and easily shove it off as, oh, that's a blockbuster title. It's a formula-driven game that you can churn out every year without putting much effort in. When in the reality is, it's a perfectly perfected brand that we struggle and fight every single day to maintain, to give that illusion. That's our brand. That epic, blockbuster, cinematic experience. That's the brand we're trying to deliver. It's the reason you see our branding change from going from Call of Duty 4 or Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare to Modern Warfare 2. And you never see us refer to it as Call of Duty. To NW3. It's that shift of maintaining what you're trying to deliver. Because, lost my train of thought. Yes, so it's us, the vision holders, who hold the only true understanding of what makes our visions what they are. The marketing, the PR, the corporate communications that happen outside our studios, outside of our hands, are just interpretations of that. A game without a personality is just a product. And I don't want to sell products. I want to share experiences. That personality is going to come from us, developers. It's the voice of your studio, and every studio needs one. Every studio has one. We just have to make sure that we're using it when we need to. I mean, it's us that are responsible for maintaining that quality. The logo of Infinity Ward, or the motto of Infinity Ward, although we never advertise it, it's committed to excellence. It's something that we never say, but we literally take it very seriously in every aspect of our game. I remember with Call of Duty 4, we were coming out with our first map packs. And it was the first time we were ever going to do actual promotion behind the map pack. So we scheduled a preview event in New York City. So we were going to go there, we were going to set up some consoles, we were going to just invite people out, open invitation. So we just sent out a tweet and we said, hey, if you're in New York, come by, check out the new map packs, I'll play along with you. So I flew to New York. I show up there, and I had all the stations set up. And beforehand, I write an email saying exactly what TV to use, exactly what sound system to use, everything down to a T, because that's extremely important to us, that commitment to excellence. And I get there, and the TVs on paper are exactly what we asked for, but they're rental TVs, so they look like shit, they're scratched up, they're out of resolution, and that is when that commitment to excellence kicks in. That's where, if as a developer you're not there, they would easily just show your game. That's how your game would have been presented to the audience. Your first time showing a brand new content, and it's showing on a broken TV. But what we did was we walked in and we seen it looked like shit. So we said, well, let's get new TVs. And they're like, oh, well, we don't have TVs. We rented these. It's like, well, then let's walk down to Best Buy down the street, buy a TV on my credit card, carry it back through Times Square, and set it up and show it on that. So that's what we did. And they thought we were assholes. And they thought we were insane. And I thought we were insane when we're carrying 11 TVs through Times Square on our backs that we just put on our credit cards. But that's what it took. That's what it took to maintain that vision. It's that kind of passion, that absurd thing that everyone else is going to get pissed off at you about, that is the reason vision holders need to be in control of that. That wasn't in the script, I just kind of freestyled that, so I'm going to try to find where I am now. This strategy became very clear to me when we decided to move the franchise into the Modern Warfare era. Because I came on during Call of Duty 2 to join the Infinity War team. So we started pre-production and decided to move it into Modern Warfare. And I knew that this was going to be a big moment for our studio. This was a very historical moment for us because it was a clean creative slate. This was our first time moving out of the historical setting into creating our own conflict, creating our own villain, creating our own characters, and for the first time we had plans to carry on through a sequel. So we knew it was important that we had to put our stamp far more on this game, not in terms of just gameplay and our ability to script amazing scenarios, but in every aspect of our storytelling and our ability to crack gameplay as a whole. We wanted that personality to show. We wanted it to be the difference between understanding what a Call of Duty game is and what an Infinity Ward game is. A branding decision that seemed so more, in hindsight, was so far more important now that you have multiple studios working in the brand. We wanted to set the foundation for understanding that you have a Call of Duty game and then you have an Infinity Ward Call of Duty game. And they're different. And you can tell that. And we wanted people to identify with that. So I had an ambitious task ahead of me for Modern Warfare, to introduce our audience to our studio. We didn't want to market the game, we wanted to share it. We didn't want to broadcast to our fans, we wanted to have a conversation. It's the difference between having that one-way street, that marketing, of just putting stuff out there, and having a dialogue with the audience. That's what we wanted. We didn't want press releases telling you about features. We wanted to give you the reasoning, the philosophy, the understanding of why those features are in the game, why they're beneficial to you. It was about allowing them the knowledge to discern what it meant to play an Infinity Ward game. That meant taking control of our presentation of our game, not only letting our personality shine through, but how we talked about the games, how the game was talked about by others, and that carried over into every single representation of our game. So I signed up for Twitter, I started a blog, I opened a YouTube channel for us. We didn't have a content strategy, we didn't have a social media plan. All we knew was we had something to say and we wanted to say it. Without revisions or filtering or censorship, we wanted our personality to go over political correctness and reality to be over perception. And that was 7 years ago. So today is my 30th day on tour. I started in Sydney, Australia, flew to Paris, then Milan, to Berlin, then Amsterdam, over to Stockholm, and finally here in Helsinki. And every stop of the way, I met people that I knew. Most importantly, people who knew me. And a kid who grew up in a trailer in Kentucky, frying chicken at a gas station, on the side of the road, I took over 250 photos with fans. I signed over 500 posters. I walked on stage in front of 5,000 people to do a Q&A. I sat down afterwards and had lengthy conversations with these people who came up to me afterwards to talk about the game, talk about their lives, their desire to work in the industry, things they wanted to see in the game. People who felt like they knew me, who felt comfortable enough to walk up, hang out, have a chat, people who played our games, people who said they'd talked to me for years and we've never met. These moments were more than PR. They were relationships with people I've never known, who were devoted to our game, to our studio, to our philosophies in game design. Strong relationships formed online through Twitter and Facebook and the forums and our YouTube channel, formed through conversation, not through marketing. A conversation that we as developers need to be having directly with our fans. I think it's this connection, this accessibility that we have directly with the fans, that has set Call of Duty apart in a lot of ways. And it removes the marketing and the PR filter, and allows us to have an honest dialogue with our players. That benefits the relationship, the strength of the relationship we have with them. Most importantly, it benefits how we approach things. It changes the way we decide on advertising. It changes the way we decide on traditional marketing. Because I'm not saying that marketing and PR isn't important. It is. But it should be influenced from the right place. And that influence is created by these relationships. My strategy at Infinity Ward has always been about being open, honest, and accessible. The more direct conversations you have with your fans, the better your relationship is going to be. Your brand engagement is going to grow. The emotional investment they have in you personally and your studio is going to increase. I think the worst thing we can do is to lose sight of that. We can't measure our success in metrics, how many views we get, how many clicks we get, how many likes, and how many retweets. We need to start measuring it on the quality of the conversation. I'll never forget when we were preparing to launch pre-production for Modern Warfare 3. I got a call from Activision saying that, obviously bigger game, big budget, obviously you need a bigger team. So they hired a digital marketing team internally at Activision to handle the social media campaign, something that we traditionally just handled myself, personally. We didn't even know what social media strategy was back then. But now we have an entire team dedicated to it. So I went over there and they set me down and they ran me through their social strategy of how Facebook works, of how you need to post every 3 hours so you stay relevant, you always show up in people's feeds and you stay in their mindset. And that was the content strategy. So my first question was, okay, well, what are we saying? They're like, oh, well, we figured the first thing we would say is, what's coming next? I don't care. That didn't resonate with me. What does it matter if we're showing up on a million people's walls if we're not saying anything interesting? It went against our core philosophy of having an honest conversation. It wasn't about building buzz for us. It was about building relationships. The biggest thing I can say, if we walk away with anything here tonight, is to just start the conversation. Any way you can. You don't have to be good at it. You don't have to be, completely committed to it, doing it every hour of the day, because fans understand. Just start the conversation. Open the channels of dialogue, because the rest is just going to go from there. Because what the difference is between a social media campaign or a social media relationship and a marketing campaign is marketing campaigns have timelines. They start when you announce your game, and they end when you ship your game, and it's over. And then they leave the customer. They no longer care because you have the money. It's achieved its goal. Where social media needs to continue beyond that. It needs to be continuing that relationship as you develop your next game, before you're asking for their money, when you're still getting your feedback from your last game. Because I would rather have a two-way conversation with one person than a one-way conversation with a million of them. We are going to get more as developers out of that two-way conversation than we get from anything else. Excuse me. So that was the third lesson that I learned very early on coming to Infinity War. That if you see something that is wrong, that needs to change, then say something. You're not always going to be right, but that questioning, that conflict, is eventually going to lead to the right answer. That was the best advice I got. Because coming into game development, I came from, my own company. I came from a DIY background. We did everything ourselves. A lot of it was in music. We had our own style. And I came into game development, and I was fairly clueless on how it all worked. So I remember the first time, my first day at Infinity Ward, actually. They sent me to the office, they gave me a computer, they gave me a dev kit, and they said, all right, good luck. And I left. I literally did nothing that entire day. I sat there, I looked around, I got drinks from the kitchen, and I felt horrible because I'm like, what am I contributing to this? What am I doing to this company? What am I contributing to this game? So instead of just sitting there, I went into our studio head's office at the time, and I said, I don't know what to do. I'm just sitting in there looking at my monitor. And he said, okay, come into this meeting with me. It was with Activision. It was my first time ever dealing with Activision. He said, don't get nervous. He said, we went to the meeting with Activision, and he said, just listen. If you hear something that's wrong, say something. I didn't say a thing. I was nervous out of my mind. So after the meeting, we walk out, and they take the assignment and said, what the fuck was that? There was lots of stuff in there that they said was stupid. And he didn't say a thing. And I was like, and I just went to my office and I brewed it over. I was like, all right, my confidence is building. And then the next meeting we had with Activision, same thing. I sat there and they said something I thought was wrong and I disagreed. I said, no, that's ridiculous. Why would we do it that way? This is what our game's about. And our studio has disagreed with me. And I felt like an idiot. But I was getting there. I was working, and that's what it takes is eventually when I spoke up, they agreed with me. And then they agreed with me again. And then I got more responsibility and more power and more influence. And I grew and I grew and I started actually shaping what our studio stood for, what our game stood for, what our games represented. And that's when it made it all worth it. I mean, I remember another story of Modern Warfare 3, actually. Activision sent over the back of the box for the DS version of Modern Warfare 3. Have we announced that? Oh. The DS version of Modern Warfare 3 yet to be announced. They sent over the back of the box, and the big bold letters across the back, it said, Signature Call of Duty Multiplayer comes to mobile, or handheld. And I called up Jason Taylor, the guy who's responsible for the back of the box, and I said, there's nothing signature about that multiplayer. Call of Duty multiplayer is about fast-paced, infantry-focused combat, 60 frames per second. None of that is in the DS version. We can't say that. It's just multiplayer with perks. And he said, okay, you're right. And they took it out, and they changed it, and they said, multiplayer coming with however many players and Wi-Fi, just the facts. And I felt good. I was like, that was acknowledgement of we're doing something. We're doing something right. We're maintaining that quality and that expectation for our brand. Because if we put that out there, sure, 90% of people would have never noticed. 90% of people would have just gone into the marketing and said, I love Call of Duty multiplayer. I'm going to love this multiplayer. But it would have diluted our actual multiplayer experience. It would have misinterpreted what the signature elements of our multiplayer actually are. That's a perfect example. I'm glad I went off on that tangent with this other here because it actually lines up with this talking point. Because no one is going to drive your car like you do. No one is going to put the discs back in their proper cases after they play the game every time like you will. No one is going to respect and treat your brand and vision the same way that we will. That's why it's so important to us as vision holders. The people who are losing entire nights of sleep because of one asshole's comment on Kotaku, despite there being 50 positive comments right next to it. The guy who will stay in the studio until 3 in the morning because he knows that one last check-in is going to make all the difference. That are the people who should be filtering every tweet, every Facebook post, going over every trailer, every press release about your game. We have the tools at our disposal to take control of our brand in ways we never could before. That's why a lone Swedish developer can sell millions of copies and have hundreds of thousands of followers following it every word with absolutely no marketing or PR. Just a Twitter account. Where two corporations can be at each other's throats with silly gimmicks and rhetoric, while the developers can completely diffuse that situation with a single tweet that says, "Last day at Gamescom, just played Battlefield 3, I loved it." Nice job, guys. The only thing left for us to do is to just do it. Thank you.